Hello YouTube, I hope you're having a great day today. Today I'm going to take a look at one of the stories by Louis Stevenson near the end of his career. It's called The Bottle Imp. He actually published it in the late 1890s in 91, near the end of his career. It's actually one of the last things that he ever published. And the reason why I want to take a look at it is because I think it's really a very strong look at kind of one of the last things that he did before he passed away and such. And so near the end of Louis Stevenson's career, he had never been feeling well and so forth. He had always been sort of a sickly person, which may have led to reasons why he was such an imaginative person and why he was always, somebody who was always looking at things like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Treasure Island, and so forth, and these sort of really strong works that really sort of resonate with you. And that may have been the reason why, is because he was this kind of person, and so forth, a more delicate person. He couldn't do as much traveling, always kind of sickly, and so his mind may have always have been more prone to wander because his body wasn't able to follow. Well, in the last 6 years of his life, he moved to the Pacific in order to try to find a place where he could actually kind of live, and so forth. He was in various Pacific islands, Samoa for most of his life. He also was in Hawaii for a while too. And so this story is actually written during that last couple of years of his life, and he's actually set in Hawaii, which is, I think, an interesting choice of a setting for a story like this. It even features a bunch of people that are native Hawaiians. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of see some native Hawaiians kind of in a fun story. Now, The Bottle Imp is, in my opinion, because it's coming in at the end of Louis Stevenson's career, it's actually one of his best stories I think he wrote. In fact, I'd say as a short story, it's just incredibly strong. And I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of stories out there that he's written that are as well paced and as strong, and also not that fast for far. It's not going to take you a long time. It's not that long of a read, so it's fast too. So it's got a good pace to it. So let's take a look at The Bottle Imp a little bit, and then I'll talk a little bit about why I think it's still kind of influential, where it kind of resonates still to this day. So in The Bottle Imp, basically what's going to happen, you're going to be introduced to this young Hawaiian guy named Kwai, who is a young guy, poor, and so forth, and grew up poor in Hawaii. And what's going to happen is he's going to come across at a very young age this guy who's been very wealthy, and so forth, and been very, very successful based on sort of the world's things, and so forth. And they get to talking, and his reason why he says he's so successful is because he has this bottle, and so forth. And he tells our point of view character what was happening, and the reason why he was so successful is because he had this bottle. This bottle is brought to the world by Satan and so forth. It has an infinite that will grant your wish, but with a curse to it, and so forth. And at the end, if you still have the bottle when you die, then you're going to go to hell, and so forth. But you can sell the bottle. But the trick is you can only sell the bottle for less than what you bought it for. So, it's been around for centuries and centuries and centuries. People from Prester John to Napoleon have had it, and that's why they were so successful. And currently, the price is $50. That's how much he paid for it. So he pays a little bit less and buys it because he understands this is an opportunity for a way out, and so forth. He picks it up. He initially he has some minor wishes to chest test it. Can he get rid of the bottle? The guy had said no, he can't get rid of the bottle. Things like that. He can't wish it away and so forth. But he can get more money than he spent for it. So he can get that money back, which is very good. And he also gets, again, more enriching, more enriching and other things too, coming down the pike as well. So there are obviously some things that he's doing. Now he will, after he's tested a bottle, he's going to wish for wealth in order to kind of set himself up, and then he's going to probably just sell the bottle. What ends up happening though is that after the wealth arrives, it arrives because his uncle, who had some money, passed away, and he willed all of his money to him, and so forth. And seeing that there's these sort of dark side to the wishes of the bottle, he wants to get rid of it as soon as possible. So he does. He finds somebody, explains to them the curse, because that's part of it. You have to explain, that you have to sell it for less money, and so forth. And then he's happy. His life is set. Okay, good. Now flash forward, and you're going to find out he's going to meet the person of his dreams. They're going to get married. Right after they get married, he's going to contract leprosy, which is at that time a disease which could not be cured, and obviously was going to be fatal to everybody. So he has to leave his home, his wife, and so forth. So he knows what the cure for leprosy is going to be, right? What's the cure for leprosy? Well, it's obviously going to be finding the bottle, buying it back, and curing his leprosy, and then again immediately selling it again. So now he's going to quest for the bottle, and when he finds the bottle, he's going to find out that the person who currently has the bottle, is more than happy to sell it. He's going to have to spend some time tracking it down, but he's more than happy to sell it, but he bought it for 2 cents. So are you going to buy it for a cent, knowing that you're going to curse your soul in doing so? And he says, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So he goes ahead and buys the bottle and so forth. And that sets up the sort of the second half of the story, so I'll stop you there. But it's very interesting what ends up happening. Robert Louis Stevenson knows the area very well. He knows the people very well too. So he has some ways to help out and to also hurt people too. And it's kind of fun. But again, you have these major characters who are Hawaiian. It's fun. I think there's also something probably here too, this idea of these sort of, and you're going to see it through multiple people that have done it, but also through our point of view character. There's this idea, this tainted wish, where sure, what you get is going to be granted to you, but it's going to be granted to you in a dark and twisted way. And that's actually something that's been resonant, I think, throughout modern fantasy since then. It may have been in fantasy before this. It's certainly possible that Robert Louis Stevenson is digging into, some sort of a Faustian sort of a narrative that may come out from genies and wishes or something like that. He may be tapping into something deeper than that too. But I would be interested to find, but this is kind of a modern sort of retelling of that, one of the first modern ones. So it'd be kind of interesting in unpacking whether or not, somebody like, a Gary Gygax or something like that, who would have something like this or an item like this straight out of a Dungeons and Dragons novel, or Dungeon Master's Guide, if that would be something, the sort of bottle and the imp that's in it, and the Twisted Curses is exactly like in a free bottle or something like that that you would have to. I'd be interested if he was familiar with this story by Robert Louis Stevenson. My guess is that for somebody who is obsessed with fantasy and mythology and such, as well as much as he was, my answer is yes, probably he was familiar with it. And so this is another trope that I think you will see sort of in modern fantasy and storytelling and conventions and so forth. So there you go. There's the Bottle Imp by Robert Louis Stevenson. I think a very well story. I think there's some great passages in it and so forth. And it's a good opportunity to see Robert Louis Stevenson at the end of his sort of career, after he's put kind of a bow on his figuring out his writing style and so forth in previous stories. And now he's just letting us kind of feel where he wants to go with the narrative and such. So there's a Bottle Imp. So have you read it? What'd you think of it? I'd be happy to engage with you more. Also link it to you in the stories below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, there's no reason not to hit that subscribe button, because there's going to be so many more videos to follow. I really do enjoy kind of tapping into these sort of forgotten classics in fantasy, science fiction, and horror, and so forth. I would feel like this was probably more of a sort of a mythological fantasy narrative with some horror elements to it, although not really. It's really more just fantasy, and so forth. But there you are. There's a Bottle Imp by Robert Louis Stevenson. And if you watch this video, hey, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. We all have such busy days and busy lives, and the fact that you spent some time with me, and that's really humbling, so I appreciate it. So thanks again. You have a good one.